Gracious Lord Almighty God, touch my lips and pray that my words may not just be my own words, that we all may be inspired by your Holy Scripture. Amen. Well, firstly, please excuse me as I'm a little hoarse. And that's because I've been driving about 300 odd miles around Louisiana with a car full of folks acting as a tourist guide. And considering they're all chatting away to each other like a whippoorwill in springtime, I had to shout over them. So it was, on the left is the Crescent City Connector, and the various points that people want to see when they explore a new city for the first time, which is always exciting when you get to show somebody something which is special to you. Even when you have to whip up enthusiasm, like, well, this is a derelict lot in downtown Baton Rouge. So anyway, not that there's nothing exciting in Baton Rouge, you understand. I come with the greetings ringing in my ears from MCC Baton Rouge and Pastor Keith Mazingo there, and also Pastor Allison at our church in New Orleans. And they both seem to be in rude health. Very rude in Keith's case. My Lord and my God, Jesus said to him, have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and have yet come to believe. Bishop Berkeley lived from 1685 to 1753, and he's not known primarily because he was a bishop. He was a bishop of Cloyne in Ireland, but he's known as a philosopher. And a very disturbing philosopher, a wonderful philosopher who prefigures some of the amazing scientific discoveries of the 20th century. And considering he lived so early, he was truly a remarkable guy. Now he said, and I paraphrase, we do not experience anything, but experiences. Think about that. He said, we don't actually experience anything in the outside world. All we actually experience are the experiences. So let me go on. He was an immaterialist, sometimes called a subjective idealist. Now allow that to go in this ear and come straight out the other, because it doesn't matter at all for the contents of my sermon. This is just people who lived way after him, going back over his writings and wanting to stamp it and put it in a particular pot, because he was an interesting man. He was a philosopher with some difficult ideas, but he was also a devoted man of God. He was a man of science, and he was deeply Christian. And in later years, those two things have come to be seen almost as mutually exclusive. But to many of the great philosophers of that time, it was almost a given that they were motivated by being passionate people of God. The closest parallel I can give you to his ideas would be the movie The Matrix. Absolutely. People live out their lives in subjective reality. They get married, they have relationships, they go hiking in the mountains, they go swimming in the sea, they go to work daily, and they live out their lives through the experiences they're having, but actually they're hooked up to a gigantic machine that is feeding them those experiences, and their lives are just algorithms in the central processor of this gigantic machine. Objectively, all their hopes, fears, sights, and sensations were computer generated. Bishop Berkeley didn't believe in material objects. He maintained that all we could ever realistically believe was that I experienced a sensation when something in my mind altered. The sensation could be touch, in which case nerve impulses in my fingers were going to my brain. And that's what I was experiencing. So if I reach out and I touch this lectern, I'm experiencing the nerve impulses. I'm not actually experiencing the lectern. If I see something, I'm experiencing the nerve impulses from my eyes, going along the optic nerve into my brain. I'm not actually experiencing a night sky, or I'm not experiencing a sunrise. If I hear something, it's the nerve impulses again. All we can really know was that there's a fairly continuous blast of activity going on in our own mind and reaching the part of us that experiences all these different things. And it is entirely by faith that from those experiences we draw a gigantic picture of the world which we take as existing. We are actually, Bishop Berkeley would say, and later people, trapped in a little prison of bone. And everything that goes on is a second-hand reconstruction of the experiences that reach us through our nerve impulses. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but what I am saying is that everything that we take to exist is in some ways a leap of faith. I believe this lectern exists, although actually it's just a bundle of qualities and experiences. It has brownness, it has solidity, it has weight, all these different things. But in truth, none of those things I can experience directly. Science tells us that if I reach out and touch it, I'm not actually touching wood. No part of me is touching the wood of this lectern. The forces that surround the atoms in my finger are touching the forces that surround the atoms in the wood. It feels solid. It's not really solid. Most of it is thin vacuum, thin air. The molecules and atoms that make it up are a tiny fraction of its whole area. So why am I banging on about this? Our senses are a very poor indicator as to the real world. Our senses tell us many things which are inaccurate. We know the world's spinning round. Our senses tell us it isn't. For thousands of years we believed that it was not only not spinning round, but it was flat, because our senses tell us that. It is logical to believe the world is flat. It is logical to believe that the world doesn't move and everything else moves around it. It's logical to believe that the world is the center of the universe and the sun moves around the world. This is all the experience of our senses. The fact that we don't believe that anymore is in some respect a leap of faith, because not a single one of us has actually moved ourselves to the edge of the solar system and looked down and seen what's going on. Not a single one of us. We take it on faith that people have done that through using probes and traveling to the moon and such like. We take that on faith. But the experience of our senses is imperfect and incomplete, and we populate the world around us by a leap of faith. Just by an act of faith. That's how we do it. That's the truth of the matter. We believe it's rock solid, but it's just a leap of faith. We are, in fact, like Bishop Berkeley says, there in our bone prisons, relying on telegraphed messages coming through holes in that bone to tell us what is going on. Even colour. Colour, something that we take to be absolutely rock solid again. You know, we define ourselves either by the colour of our skin, the colour of the clothes we're wearing. There is no way you can ever share with another living person the thing that you experience when you look at a colour. Try it. Try and explain to somebody the redness of, quick, something red. George, yes, there you go. Try and explain to somebody the colour of that. It can't be done. You just have to. How do you know that what you see as maroon isn't what somebody else sees as green? You don't know. You can never know. You take it as a leap of faith. We're very easily fooled. We're very easily fooled. We're very easily fooled by our senses. We're also very easily fooled by other people. You only have to look at the political process to work that one. We will be well advised in an absolute sense to doubt the evidence of our senses. Yet in order to move from the bone prison of our minds and experience more than just a sense of bewilderment, then we have to make certain leaps of faith that seem consistent, reliable, and useful to us. That's the thing. We make a leap of faith that this is actually an object, okay? And not just a collection of qualities and experiences, because it has proved useful, consistent, and reliable to make that leap of faith about certain objects around us in the world. That's why we're not still stuck in the bone prison, believing that the only thing that's coming through are telegraphed messages from our nerves, giving us a general set of impressions. We actually believe those things out there exist because we have found it to be reliable, consistent, and useful to do so. Thomas was wrong to believe that the evidence of his senses would be able to tell him something that the evidence of his heart could not. He was wrong to believe that the personhood of the person who he had reliably, consistently, and usefully identified with the divinity of God in flesh on earth could only be proved by him sticking his hand into the wounds of that same person. The leap of faith was as essential to Thomas 2,000 years ago as it is to us now. The fact that he was there physically means diddly squat. We can easily be hoodwinked into believing we're seeing something that isn't there. People have forever been whisked away from rural bits of New Mexico and probed in flying saucers. It can't just be a matter of magic and smoke and mirrors. It can't just be a matter of miracles which persuade and bamboozle people into believing in Jesus Christ. There has to be something that is consistent, reliable, and useful in that belief that that person exists in our lives and that that person has overcome death and that that person reaches out to us with a hope and possibility of resurrection. And until we have started interacting with Jesus on that level, with the divine on that level, where we can honestly, in our lives and our beliefs and our souls and our hearts, find it consistent and reliable and useful, that Jesus is real, then no amount of physical evidence would mean anything to us. We can dismiss it. There are still people that believe the world is flat. There are still people that believe the world was created 6,000 years ago. There are still people that believe almost any of those things, which the general population has come to disbelieve because they find the evidence that disproves it to be consistent, reliable, and useful. Because in one way, the evidence of all those things is the same pattern of discovery that puts the lights on and works our computers and our phones, and therefore we find it to be consistent, reliable, and useful. Well, if you are a person of faith, you also find it to be all those different qualities. That Jesus is divine, and that the divine is made flesh, and that it is accessible to us, and that Jesus is risen again. And we do not need to stick our hands into his side. We do not need to feel the nail holes. We just need to live with that faith and look within our hearts and see whether it has liberated us from that bone prison and whether it has been consistent, reliable,